Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Me. Now you can hear me. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. You're welcome.
Cool. So today we are going to be talking about perfectionism. Can everybody hear me okay? Can I get a thumbs up? Yes. Cool. Okay. Apologize again. We will be settled in a couple of days. So today we're going to be talking about balancing perfectionism, which is a call that was requested honestly a couple of times. And I actually, another win that we had was I got to meet Bethany, which is in the program as well. We got to meet last week here in Florida. And she had mentioned something about like something that she struggled with when entering the program and even just like in this process of this new journey is feeling the need to be super, super perfect. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that, where we want everything to be the perfect gram to the perfect workout to like the perfect schedule. And then the moment something gets thrown off, where maybe your kid decides like they are just not going to cooperate today, or maybe you're not feeling well, or maybe you have this event, or maybe you work late, like the moment that something gets thrown off, we just like let that shut ourselves down, and we kind of like turn into all or nothing, right? So a couple things that we're going to talk about today is ridding the all or nothing mindset, taking stress off of your plate, the things that we should be perfect on and the things that we shouldn't. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but a lot of us tend to like major in the minor, like the perfect supplement, the perfect time that I should be timing out that first meal, the perfect time that I should be doing my workout, or the perfect like this, right? There's things that we should put a lot of effort into, and there's things that really it doesn't really matter that much. So we're going to get into that as well. And we're going to talk about balancing the weekends with this one and with this lesson. The goal is almost to get you guys to stop telling me that you fell off track, because you go out to eat on a Sunday for somebody's birthday and you're like, Nicole, I fell off track. And I'm like, girl, you did not fall off track. You went out to eat. Or you missed one workout and you haven't missed a workout in the last 90 days. And it's like, Nicole, I fell off track. Like, no, you just had an event come up. That doesn't mean that you fell off track, right? So we want to start to balance all of that. So what is perfectionism? All right, it is the pursuit of flawlessness, and it can be productive in moderation but unhealthy when super, super, super rigid. This is also why a lot of people say like, oh, I started tracking my calories and it was so bad for my mental health because like it was just too much. I started like majoring in every single little thing and I was driving myself crazy, right? We can use tracking as a way to be productive, to get to our goals. But when we're trying to freak out because it's 45 grams of blueberries versus like 40 grams of blueberries, right? That's when it can get that like bad relationship, right? So this can lead to not enjoying the process. And ultimately, that is the goal that we try to create. Why do we focus on strong? Why do we focus on abundance with food? Because you have to enjoy this process. If not, you're going to fall off. If not, this is not going to be a lifestyle, right? So falling off more often and for longer periods of time. When we try to be so rigid, I have a weekend getaway, and since I fell off, that means Monday I'm still off, Tuesday I'm still off, Wednesday I felt still off. Oh, finally just got back on track. And it's just this whole like, it didn't have to be so long. We could just focus on being less perfect, but more consistent. And that leads to longer consistency over time. Burnout and stress, and a lot of self sabotage. You did 90% of your workouts, but you missed two of them. And now you're thinking that you're a failure. No, you just did 90% of your workouts. You did a really, really good job, right? You tracked your week to the T. You did all of your steps. You only missed one day because you weren't feeling well, right? So now the all or nothing thinking, right? So this is viewing tasks as complete success or failure. And this often leads to procrastination or giving up. So if I can't do it perfect, why do it at all? That's like, I don't know if you've ever seen this like on Instagram. It's like if you can't do an hour workout, but you can do a half hour, you're kind of like, a half hour workout's not good enough. I'm just not going to work out at all. Right. It's kind of like if you were to pop one tire, like you get one flat and you go around and you just pop every single one just because. Right. So this is going to lead to perfectionism. If my weekends doesn't look as my work schedule like Tuesday, I am a failure. So I get this a lot, so many times. I fell off track this weekend. I fell off track this weekend. Your Saturday, your Sunday is never going to look like a Wednesday. Wednesday, you wake up, you go to the gym, you go to work, you come home, you cook, you hang out with your kids. Like whatever the schedule is during the week is not going to look like your weekend, right? So we have to understand that you're not a failure for that. You're not like less committed. You're not anything that you might be thinking. It's just we have to find routine in that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And we need to shift to progress over perfection. So how can we start to find these small wins to consistently grow? Now, and one thing that I want you to take, I lost the, hold on, sorry. Can you guys still see me? I can't see you. Oh, I found you. There you go. I'm on a new computer, so bear with me. So one thing that I want you to take throughout this call is in this program, and just you as a human being, every single person in here, you have higher standards. 100%. You have higher standards. So I don't want this to be like, oh, Nicole says like I can miss a workout here and there. Like I don't really have to track all the time. No, but we can have those higher standards without being so perfect. I would rather you be 80% consistent 100% of the time than try to be 80% consistent. And because of that, 100% consistent. And because of that, you're like falling off every so often because you're either perfect or not. All right. So in this call, remember, I'm asking for higher standards. And what you're asking for yourself is higher standards. How can I be above average, but not be so freaking hard on myself? All right. So in that case, let's say you go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week, but once in a blue, you miss a workout, right? And Bethy's coming in. Once in a blue, you miss a workout. That's okay. That doesn't mean you fell off. That doesn't mean that you're going to stay off, right? You train hard as fuck. You lift heavy. You get into the gym. Like you're really putting effort into these workouts. But sometimes life hits. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to flow because I'm super stressed, or I just didn't sleep last night. Or in my case, I decided that I have to take 75 flights and I haven't been able to work out in so many days, right? But when I'm in the gym and I'm training, I train hard as fuck, right? So that doesn't mean that I fell off. It just means that I continue to be consistent in the areas that I can, right? You track your calories, but you don't measure every single gram. The piece of chicken goes on and it's 3.3 ounces and you wanted 3 and you're like cutting off a piece and like putting it to the side. Like, okay, it's not that deep. It doesn't have to be so strict, right? Or when it's like mom's birthday, it's your birthday. If you ever tell me that you fell off because you had your birthday cake, I would be more upset if you didn't have your birthday cake. So these are where we have to start to find that balance as well. So it is up to you to find that 90% consistency and not use the once in a blue as an excuse. So for all of the things that I just mentioned here, right? Like you go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week, once in a blue, you miss a workout, that's okay. But you're not doing that every other week where you're like, Nicole said it's okay to miss a workout. Or Nicole said I don't really have to train hard all the time, right? So remember, you have to keep those high standards for yourself and understand, when am I listening to my body? When am I supposed to pull back? But realizing that 90% of the time you are super consistent and you are keeping those standards and that structure really high, right? Are we kind of following here? This is sometimes even like that gray area that even like you'll ask me a question. I think one that I can relate to is like Cindy messaged me about like this whole thing that she was dealing with in terms of stress. How can we pivot? And I'm like, I'm not going to give you an answer because I'm not feeling what you're feeling right now. So I'm going to give you options, and I really want you to find like that gray area of how you can start to manage the stress. So if you need to miss today's workout or you need to miss tomorrow, but you can move your workouts, what feels best for you, right? Finding that gray area, right? So it's the gray area of I have high standards, but I also have self-compassion that sometimes it's not going to work out perfectly and I can still stay in control. I am productive. I'm super fucking productive with my schedule. However, I maintain my peace all of the time, right? So it's not like hustle mentality. I'm always grinding every single hour, every single minute is perfect. Like, no, I get my stuff done, but I'm going to make sure that I keep a good mental health, right? So that's the balance that we're really looking for. Now, some practical strategies to really let go of this all or nothing approach. We're going to talk about it in a couple of different ways. One is reducing stress by prioritizing, right? Oops. Now, when it comes to Project Fitchick, there's 4 essentials that I want you to focus on all of the time, right? 1, your workouts. 2, your meals. 3, your walks. And 4, your planning. And if you plan, You get 1, 2, and 3 done. Your workouts, for most of us, we have the same workout schedule every single week. Your week kind of looks repetitive or you kind of get a flow. As soon as they're in your calendar, they're basically done. You have your one safety day. If I don't go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm gonna go on Saturday. Perfect. Right? As long as they're in their schedule, they're done. Your meals the night before, you're asking, hey, what am I eating tomorrow? Cool, that's done. I walk at this time, and that's kind of how you're planning. Those are the 4 things that we really have to focus on, right? Obviously, within that comes a lot of different obstacles, but those are the 4 things. Don't major in all of the things. Now, perfectionists often take on too many tasks, right? So if there is anything in your life that you feel like, fuck, those 4 things, I'm working out, my meals, I don't have a lot of time, which is normal. When you become any type of like fit chick, you are prioritizing your health, you're going to the gym, you have less time, right? You have to prioritize your time a little bit better. So if there's any task on your day to day that you feel like you can delegate, right, that's going to be ideal for us to maintain that peace and not feel like I have to clean my house, I have to go get my groceries, like I have to do everything. Something as simple for me is like, in a simplifying my task, I got a mop that like mops my house. And I just like this vacuum that saved. I used to hate mop because it take me so much time and it was really annoying. So now I got something like that. I cut my mopping in half and now I'm able to just be more productive in more areas and I don't get as easily stressed. Right? Little things like that. That's just one example. Right. Lists have gone a very, very far away from me. I'm not going to click this just because I'm having trouble with this computer, but this is a link to an Amazon. I've recommended to a lot of people, but I have magnetic lists. And they're basically like 4 different lists that I have on my fridge. Each one says a different category. So groceries, Nicole's to-do list today, Nicole's to-do list eventually, everything starts getting put on that list. So I sometimes feel like I have so much going on, right? And I try to be so productive and so perfect in all these areas that I end up like shutting down or I end up getting stressed. Okay, it goes on the list. At the end of the day, I'm like, what do I have to do today? Okay, cool. Cross that off and that's done. Oh, this I can do, like I have to call a doctor. I can do that tomorrow. That's fine. That's on my other list, but it will stay there. So this is a way for me to start managing my stress and prioritizing the things that I have to prioritize. If anyone wants that link, that was the best thing that I've ever gotten. I can send it to you. But if you just click like Amazon magnetic list and you just make your own categories, you can even make categories for the people in your house. Your partner has to do something, partner's to-do list, boom, these are the things that you need to do so that you don't forget. And with this is stop saying yes to everything. You don't always have to go. You don't always have to say yes. Your friend needs you to do something, or your friend wants to invite you somewhere, your mom asks you for a favor, like you don't always have to say yes. So becoming a no woman is one of the most powerful things that you can ever step into. And I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that this program pushes you a lot to say no. And then you start realizing like, wow, I feel like I'm saying yes to myself. And again, that's where we are not as perfect. We have more peace, we start prioritizing, and we're less stressed. But I'm feeling so much better. I'm more confident in my skin and I'm stronger than ever. Right now, the things that we should be perfect on and the things that we shouldn't. Let's talk about it in terms of tracking, because I think this is where a lot of you kind of fall into like that perfectionism. Now, things that we shouldn't stress: weighing out like your veggies and fruits. I've definitely done this. I used to weigh out like my spinach. It's fucking spinach. It's literally like I would have like it's something that I used to do, or like my peppers or my tomato and my cucumber. Now when I track my veggies, like if even if I'm making like a whole onion, peppers, and like I have that prepped, I'm probably gonna just put in my app that I'm having like onions and I'm doing a cup of that. I don't care if it's mixed with peas and this and this, they're vegetables. It's fine. This makes my life a little bit easier mentally than putting 0.5 cucumber, 0.5 tomato, 100 grams of spinach. And it's just like too much for what? Just put that you had 1 tomato, even though it's half a tomato and half a cucumber. These are just the things that I do. So, like, obviously, put these whatever you have. Fruits can vary a little bit more. I totally weigh out my bananas just like cuz. But again, with like the blueberries, if you're doing like a cup of blueberries, go like this with your cup, pour it on, right? Don't have to like, oh, 3 blueberries too much and you take that off. It's just too much, right? Homemade brands that are high quality ingredients are also things that we should not stress. Now, in this case, I would totally recommend like reach out to your coaches, like ask, hey, I don't know how to track this. What do you recommend? For example, I like my sauces that I get, like my pesto or sometimes like my breads. I go to a local bakery. They don't have labels. They don't have these things. But I'm not gonna go to my grocery store and get something with a million ingredients just because I don't know how to track this high quality ingredient. Instead, what I do is like if I'm getting sourdough, I look up sourdough and I'm like, oh, this one's at Whole Foods, perfect. I use that whenever I track it. Oh, cool. I looked up pesto, even though, or hummus. I've been making my own hummus. I don't know how much thing is in my hummus. Like I just look up a hummus and then I use that. It's this way we're not really stressing about those things. However, you're still getting your things done. So if you ever have questions on there, like, oh, I just put it down. If you ever have questions in that area, you can let me know. All right. So that 10%, that cookie, somebody handed you a cookie, you're like, oh shit, I don't know how many calories are in that cookie. Literally just look up cookie, look at it, and take a guess. It's good enough. You're barely having cookies in the week, right? If you really have a question, ask. But that one cookie, right? A dinner date, you're gonna say it's your partner's, you're like, it's your anniversary and you're like, oh, I can't, Nicole says I can't really be off track. Like, no, that's the 10%. You're so on track 90%. And it's important to learn that now throughout this process when you have help, when you have a community, when you have a coach that can guide you through that. All right. Missing one workout in 90 days, that would be like a different one, but that's kind of like, again, you missed one workout, you're fine. All right. Now, things that we should put more effort into, those higher standards. Weighing out things like your protein, your carbs. So like my tofu, if you're having like chicken, if you're having fish, like do weigh out those things. If you're having like potatoes, if you're having, I don't really weigh out my rice, but like different things like that that are a little bit higher in calories that are not like spinach and just veggies, weigh them out, right? It doesn't take that long. So those are things that can throw us off, right? Rather than just like, I know some people are like, this is whatever amount of grams of chicken, right? That's probably not going to tell us too much. Let's just weigh it out. Another one is putting things in the app as meals. If you haven't gone to tracking yet, by the way, this is just like future pacing, right? You'll learn all these things. It's not so overwhelming, so don't stress about it. But putting things on the app as meals, the more effort that you put in when you first get into the app, it's overwhelming at first, but the more meals that you saved, I never used to do this when I first started tracking. Now I have a ton of meals in there. So every time I'm having a meal that maybe I had 3 weeks ago, I go into my meals. I'm like, oh, this sandwich, perfect. I didn't have to track it's in there. All right. At first, it was a lot of work. I had to like build it out. But now, like, I put more effort on the front end so that I didn't have to put more effort like when actually came the time. So 90% consistency in the core 4 areas, which are, I was 3. Yeah, because planning. Well, workouts, walk, meals, and planning. So 90% consistency in there, you're good, right? Now, let's talk about balancing your weekends. Your weekends are not out of routine. They are their own routine. How many people's here your Wednesday looks like your Saturday? Probably not. What are you doing on Sunday? It probably doesn't look like what you're doing on Tuesday. Does that mean that on Sunday and Saturday you're off track? No. We can have a schedule for the week. We can have a schedule and a routine for the weekend. For me, my Friday, Saturday, and Sunday honestly all look really different. But what we'll notice, and this is probably it's gonna come up here, but what we're gonna notice is this Friday probably look like last Friday and the Friday before. This Saturday probably look like the same couple Saturdays, even though it's a little bit different depending on the occasion. Your weekends are very, very similar. So if we start taking that as, wow, I have to create a weekend routine versus every weekend I fall off because I go out to eat, we can start to feel more successful. We can start to compound those wins, and then we can create that better consistency. And every single weekend, because those are usually the hardest parts, can get better and better. So I'm going to talk about balancing your weekends, right? Making a weekend routine, scheduling this also beforehand. So my week is pretty structured. I know everybody has, obviously take this, like if you have like shift workers and like people that have like different schedules, take this and kind of make this your own, but scheduling that beforehand as well. Like on Fridays, I'm usually like, okay, what's tomorrow going to be looking like? Like, am I going to work out? When am I going to walk? When am I going to meal prep this weekend? And do I have any social settings that I have to attend to? So I usually plan around those social settings. So like, okay, cool. On Saturday, I have this event. So I really want to make sure that I'm walking at this time, and or like Sunday is usually when I meal prep, but I have to go to this thing. So I'm going to make sure that I meal prep before, because I know I'm not going to want to meal prep after. Asking yourself these questions and setting that schedule is just creating that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule to your Saturday, right? You do it once, you realize like, oh, that went really well. Or, ooh, that didn't work. I shouldn't set my meal prep for after the social setting. I should set it for before, because that did not work this week. Cool. Next weekend, you do better, right? And then every single weekend from there just gets better and better and better. And every weekend is almost, if I can say. Now, eating out over the weekends. So your number of meals can also be a little bit different, right? Again, it's not going to be a Tuesday where you have your perfect meal prep and you're walking and you have like your snacks and everything. I usually don't really snack over the weekends, just because I usually go out to eat. So that holds me down. I usually have like one bigger meal. So I don't really need like my snack. That's what I have found works best for me, by the way. Everybody has their own like different things. I know some of you don't even eat out much. So understanding that, right? Planning this ahead, plan your events, ask questions. If this is something that used to make me a little bit uncomfortable, but like I always ask, like I started like asking my parents, they loved going out to eat when I first started working out, and I was just like, oh, where are we going to go out to eat? What time? So now I can start to like plan out my meals around that meal. Oh, cool. We're going to that pasta place. Lots of carbs. Don't want to miss out. Okay, cool. Let me just adjust my carbs earlier in the day. Not a problem. I can still go. I just want to know. At first, it was weird for my parents, or like it could be weird for your partner. Like, oh my God, you're so difficult. Like, I'm not difficult. I want to go. I'm telling you that I want to go. But I have goals right now. Right. I'm just trying to manage the things that I'm doing. All right. So asking those questions. And another thing that we'll talk about in a second is remembering your phase. If you're in a fat loss phase, if you're in a calorie deficit, eating out can feel like, damn, I don't want to really go to the pasta place. Can we go somewhere that's a little bit lighter, because like don't really have a lot of calories to work with? Communicating that, but it might feel that way when you are on a fat loss phase. It's not going to feel like that forever. Don't look at my stories and tell me like, oh, how you eat out all the time. I'm not in a fat loss phase right now, right? And I will say that super transparent, because eventually you won't be either, and you'll kind of learn how to do that. So remembering your phase, eating out over the weekend might feel a little bit more like difficult, but yeah. Now, lunch versus dinner. This is when you're eating out. We're gonna do another lesson on this next week, but choosing and basically balancing your day of eating out. What I tend to do is like if I know I'm going out for lunch, depending on when I'm going out, I ask questions, what time, to know what I should be having for breakfast. I usually have like protein shake in the morning or something light, right? Because I'm about to go out and to eat in a couple hours, right? Then I have somewhat of a mindful dinner, and then lunch, and then at night I try to keep it like veggie based, maybe lower calorie, higher in protein, because I just had a pizza for lunch, right? If I'm going out for dinner, I kind of do it a little bit more, a little bit different. You can find this for yourself as you go throughout this journey. For dinner, we have to sometimes be a little bit extra mindful, because you don't want to be starving all day. If you're going out to dinner at 7:30 p.m., you're not gonna have a protein shake and then like a little salad. So like eat a little bit more regular in the morning, have a lighter lunch because you know you're going out to eat. And then since technically you're using a little bit more calories and you don't want to be starving for dinner, just be a little bit extra mindful when you're choosing. So maybe I wouldn't go for like the pizza, but like I'll go for something a little bit lighter because, you know, it's late at night and I already wanted to eat throughout the day. You'll find that again, that's what works for me. We're going to dive deeper into this. But one thing that you'll notice here is the reason that this is like an extra mindful dinner, right, is because I don't want you starving all day. So if you try to like keep a low carb breakfast and a low carb lunch, what's going to happen at dinner? You're going to eat all the fucking carbs. The bread is going to be on the table, and I want that. I haven't had carbs all day. You normally wouldn't even go for the bread. You wouldn't go for the bread and the appetizer and the wine and everything, but you're so hungry that you just want it all. Now, if we start to balance that day a little bit more, okay, cool. Like I'm having carbs here and I'm having carbs here. That's why this one's a little bit lighter. But here, carbs are mostly like in the main lunch meal, because you're not starving. You just only had breakfast to go. So that's why we can have a little bit more flexibility for lunch. I hope that kind of makes sense. You'll kind of find that within yourself. That's why I always like to go out to eat for lunch. My family thinks it's because, well, it is because I like to go to sleep early, but it's just because I can plan out my day better. So again, we're going to talk about this on next week's call. So it's all going to be, and if you have any questions on this, like how can we really be successful when we're going out to eat? Now, next thing for perfectionism, there'll be a couple more slides to go. Snowballing wins and start finding those small goals. So if you are always looking for, I want to lift 315 on a deadlift, I'm not even close to 315, right? That's so far away. So if you're always looking at like, I want to put a plate on the barbell, but you haven't even gotten to like a 25, it's going to seem so far. If you're looking at those 30 pounds that you want to lose, that lifestyle that like it seems so easy for all the fit girls to be living, but like you just kind of started learning all these things, right? You will never be able to see, you just put an extra 5 pounds on the barbell today. That's pretty sick, right? You just went up on the lat pull down. That's pretty dope, right? You didn't get your first pull up today, but you just moved the assisted machine one level down. So you're closer, right? So I'm not thinking I'm only successful when I get that first pull up. I'm thinking like, oh, nice. Today I got an extra rep. Finding those small wins, we start to snowball. That 5 pounds that you lost, amazing. Maybe you haven't lost to 30 yet, no problem, but you've lost 5, and that's something to celebrate. Feeling better physically and in clothes. And honestly, just checking off things on your list. You did your 4 workouts, amazing. Amazing. That's so perfect. You did all of them. Great. You meal prep this week. Good. If you find those wins, you start to feel like I'm a winner. You start to do it more. We start to see more success, right? That's the mentality that we want to start to build. We have more fun. We enjoy the process. We stay more consistent. And the last thing is, again, remembering your phase. This is gonna, it's kind of like if we were on a bumpy road right now, and I'm like, oh, but over there, the view is so nice and the road is just perfectly flat. You don't really know what that road is going to be like because right now you're going through the fucking mud, right? You're going through all of this like learning. You're trying to figure out your calories. You only have like 1,600 calories, 1,500 calories, whatever many calories that you have in a day, and it seems so hard to manage. You're not going to be here forever, and you're going to feel like you have to be less strict. When I'm cutting, I eat out less, right? I'm a little bit more strict at home. I weigh out things. I don't really go to a local bakery and get like a brownie or a cookie, right? That's the reality. And that's why we'll always say like a calorie deficit is not fun. Sometimes it's difficult, right? But remember, this is just a phase right now. Eventually, you're going to learn that like lifestyle and balance and maintenance and 2,000 calories that everybody talks about, you're just not there yet. So although that seems like, what view are we going to, Nicole? We're in the mud right now. We can't get the car out. Like it's coming. And when you get there, you're going to look back and you'll be like, wow, good thing we did that. That was hard, but I get it now. I get why I was feeling that way. Right. So understanding your phase as well. So that's it for today. Remember that food is love and strength is power and consistency is key. And please don't ever try to be perfect because that does not, it just doesn't work and it kind of sucks. So, do we have any questions for today? Okay, I just saw the message. I feel like this is my first time on a computer with this new computer that I just got. Ooh, let me take a sip of water. I was really debating on doing this call today because of not sleeping at all last night, but I'm so happy because I really felt that one. I felt good. It feels good to be back after missing last week's call. Do we have any questions or does anybody have anything that they would like to share? If you do, you can just unmute yourself or put in the chat.
I've got something to share.
Talk to me.
So this is something that's stuck in my head since high school. And if anybody remembers high school and teachers who would put like pretty little inspirational quotes on the walls and stuff like that, one that stuck in my head was, there's no such thing as perfection, but there is such thing as progress. And from then on, I'm working on my progress, not perfection.
I love that. I wish I had your teacher because that is not what I was taught at all. But no, I really do love that. As if you can fall in love with just like that little bit of progress. You just want a little bit more progress every time. And a lot of you kind of know my story too. I've never been more miserable with fitness, nutrition, my body than when I was trying to hit everything so perfect. Like it is just not, but again, it is a learning process. I love that quote. If you guys need to write it, put on a post-it, put on your fridge, put Carla's teacher on the bottom. Anybody else have anything to share? Maybe you've kind of experienced this or you've overcame this, or maybe you're going through it right now and you have some questions. Give you another minute.
Definitely going through it right now.
What's happening right now?
Well, I think that I'm getting myself out of it. It was just like a combination of things. Like work obviously takes over my life. And I've known this, and now I'm just working on changing things and getting back into my habits and more focusing on the things that I can control versus the things that I can't. And I can control what I eat, and I can control when I work out, can control those things.
I love that. And how are you managing? So the things that you can't control, how are you reminding yourself of that or like staying present with those things to kind of let them go?
I think journaling has been helping and just staying in a more positive mindset, because when you go down a negative mindset, it just like spirals. So I think I'm more in the process of digging myself out of that mindset.
Nice. With even like with work, so like even in Jen's case or even with mine today, work kind of like since I woke up so late, since I fell asleep so late, I have barely moved all day. And I don't like not going for walks. Like I genuinely physically don't like it. So something that I had to remind myself of today is like, okay, this is just like the one day. Like this is my 10%. And unfortunately, sometimes I'll say no to like, I actually did cancel some meetings today because I just couldn't handle everything on my plate. So if it comes to work, if you can say no to certain things, but remember like how we can start to, okay, this is just a busy season. How do I work in that busy season? How am I working when I'm out of that busy season? How am I taking care of my mental health? And what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to go for a walk after. So appreciate you sharing.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to share anything? And then I will let you go.
Thank you for reminding us that the weekend it isn't going to look like your weekdays, because this week I was so happy for Monday to come around that my schedule would be more predictable, and then I could better stick to all my new habits. So thank you for reminding us that the weekend has its own routine and I can make it fit the way the rest of the week fits.
Yeah, I love that. It's always I actually I love my routine in the week too. Like I do look forward to like can't wait to just have my meals during the week. So that's something that you'll kind of feel. But something that you can start to like work on as well is like what did you do last week with your structure that you did like? How can you repeat that? And what did you do last week with your weekend that you didn't like that you would like to improve on next weekend? And in a couple weeks, your weekends will feel so much more like structured. Anybody else? I think Veronica, did you want to say something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like so I've been doing the program now for probably like a month or a little more. Um, and I feel as though like the four things that you mentioned that we work on, I'm like trying to juggle each of those balls separately, but I don't know how to juggle, but I'm learning how to juggle. You know what I mean? And so I feel like now I finally have an understanding of like, okay, like for meal planning, this works for me to do my meals on Saturday, do the food shopping, but cook it on Sunday. And then I have all the meals here. And like for the gym, I know that I need to like either work out these days in the afternoon and these other days in the morning. But it's happening not all at the same time. It's like one by one. And I think for me, I just have to be okay that I'm not getting it all perfect at the same time. It maybe for me, it's one at a time. but I'm like slowly making the progress.
Yeah.
So yeah, but this call was very helpful. And so I just kind of picture us like all trying to juggle all these things and learn how to juggle and figure it
That
out.
is the cutest thing I've ever heard, and I'm totally going to use that all the time now. Something for that, keep failing. It's kind of like dating. You don't date somebody and you're like, wow, they had a shitty personality. I'm never gonna date for my rest of my life. You're just like, I don't want somebody that's like not hygienic. Like I'm just next person. I just need to make sure that that's something that I want, right? Like these are things that keep trying. I've tried probably like so many meal prep systems. There was some that I hated. I tried meal prepping for the week, didn't work. But I realized because of that, what doesn't work is also a way of you seeing progress because you're one step closer to finding a better structure. And then the nutrition will come in, and then the training will come in, and then it'll kind of get more boring. Realistically, what we want is like to find our boring. And then you're gonna be like, Nicole, what should I change now? And I'm like, you just figured out what you're gonna do. So that's the next thing we'll overcome. But I like that you're trying new things.
I there are like two things I want to like add. That perfectionism is a form of self-sabotage because it just doesn't exist, and it can be even a subconscious thing that we have this in our mind, and to be perfect, and really what we're doing is trying to put up a wall, a barrier to protect ourselves, which inevitably we fail. So it is just a form of self-sabotage. And then I love the juggling thing. And it's so funny because I say this all the time. I teach at a university college students in the performing arts. And so perfectionism is an issue. And I always say to students, like when we introduce a new concept, and I always say, it's like you're juggling two balls and I throw you a third one and you drop one of the ones you were juggling, but you're still juggling two. And eventually you get to the point where you can juggle three, maybe just for a few seconds, but then you learn. And then eventually we start with four balls. So I love that idea of juggling, and I use that all the time. But perfectionism is real. It's tough to get through, it really is.
I love that. I love that you mentioned it on like the mental health sides of things because I worked on it a lot with like my therapist, like just learning these kind of things and like why am I shutting down when I'm like my mom throws my schedule off 20 minutes. Like these are a lot of things that I worked with my therapist about. So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Anybody else have any last minute questions or even unrelated to today before I let you guys go?
Are you doing okay in Florida? You've got a place to stay and
Yeah, I luckily I have two family members here. So I'm at one house and then somehow I'm in Orlando right now. I am going to make it to Tampa this weekend, and then that's where I'll be staying. We don't really know when we can go back to Colombia. Long story short, Maria got there and they're like, you've been here for too many days and your visa has not been approved. So she was like, I can't come in. So that's kind of what happened. But luckily, like I called my cousin and my uncle and I'm like, hey, can we stay with you guys? Like obviously I'm not gonna stay there by myself. So yeah, we're situated. It could be worse. I would say we have it pretty good right now. So I appreciate that.
good. That was just my big concern, if you had like a place to stay and all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely missing my little schedule and my computer. And I have like this little minion that comes in and she brings me like anybody that has kids, I feel you right now. Because she walks in and she's like, look what I got. And I'm like trying to do a task. But it's kind of cute. I appreciate though. Alrighty, so I will let you guys go. If you have any questions on today's call, if you notice something throughout the week, always feel free to either share it on the group or message us because we are here to help you through every single little task. Because if you haven't gone through it, or if you're going through it, I've probably gone through it, or we've helped somebody go through it. So you are definitely not alone. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you next week. Don't forget to check in this week. We do have check-ins.